The Galactic Council Chamber was enormous, built to impress, built to remind all species who ruled the stars. Floating crystal lights sparkled overhead. Holograms of 1,000 alien species flickered across the curved walls. At the center, the High Speaker of the Empire leaned forward and laughed. "Earth?" he said loudly. "That little mud ball? The one with oceans and clouds and primitive minds?" The laughter spread like a wave across the chamber. Tall, thin creatures from the Zethrim delegation chuckled with high-pitched squeals. The armored warlords of the Grex roared and slapped their metal claws together. Even the normally cold-blooded creatures from Siren space showed their sharp teeth in amusement. "They don't even attend our meetings," said another ambassador. Arrogance from a species that hasn't seen more than 5-star systems. More laughter, more mockery. "They think they're independent," said the High Speaker, smirking. "Let them hide on their planet. If we wanted, we could wipe them out in a single strike." "They are not even worth the fuel it would take," one alien added. None of them noticed the silent figure in the shadows. A single Terran observer, uninvited but present, stood at the edge of the chamber. He wore a dark coat, no armor, number, visible weapons. He said nothing, but his eyes scanned the room with calm focus, recording every insult, every name, every planned dot. Then he turned and walked away. Far from the council chambers, deep under a mountain on Earth, an old command station buzzed to life. Dozens of human officers stood at glowing terminals, staring at new data on their screens. The alien fleets were moving. More probes had entered Sol System. One even entered Mars orbit before vanishing. Commander Hallow stood at the center of the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. He didn't speak much, but when he did, everyone listened. "Status of the outer sensor net?" he asked quietly. "Still holding, sir. We ghosted them the moment they crossed into the Kuiper Belt," the technician replied. "Any signal leaks?" "None." Halle nodded once, then looked at the giant screen at the front of the room. It showed Earth, its moon, and the vast blackness beyond. In that darkness, something moved, a long, massive shadow, hidden just outside the sun's light. "Ring? Project Eclipse Online," Halle said. Everyone in the room paused. "Sir?" asked the young officer near the front. Her voice shook slightly. "You heard me," Halle replied. "It's time." The room went silent. On a secret moon base orbiting far beyond Neptune, massive engines hummed deep underground. Hidden hangars opened for the first time in over 20 years. Crew members rushed into stations. Defense teams activated massive launch rails and zero-gravity chambers. At the heart of it all, the largest vessel ever created by humanity, the Terran. Eclipse waited in silence, blacker than space, larger than any warship in known records. The Eclipse had been built in secret, not for attack, not for conquest, but for one reason only. If the galaxy ever laughed too loudly, Earth would remind them why silence is power. Back in the Galactic Council Chamber, the laughter still echoed. They don't even know how to build proper warp drives. Their technology is based on metal and chemicals, like children playing with fire. Send scouts. Study them. Take what little they have. The High Speaker raised his clawed hand and smirked again. "Let it be known," he said, "that Earth is a shadow in the galaxy. Nothing more." But in a different corner of the stars, the shadow was beginning to wake. Asterisk, far from the bright chambers of the Galactic Council, Earth remained silent. Cities moved as usual. People worked, laughed, and lived without knowing anything about the insults flying through space. News channels talked about weather, politics, and sports, but said nothing about incoming fleets or unknown signals near the outer system. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. Deep under Antarctica, inside a hidden Terran defense base, Lieutenant Mara stood at her post. Her fingers tapped across her control panel, checking sensor readings. Something didn't feel right. Alien probes had been entering Sol. Space for weeks, but now they had stopped moving. "Commander Hall," she said over comms, "I think they're waiting." Hale's voice crackled through. "Calm, cold, they are," he said. "Let them wait. Let them believe Earth is asleep." Mara stared at the screen. "But what if they attack before we're ready?" There was a pause. "They're not attacking." Hall replied, "Not yet. They're testing us, measuring silence. And soon they'll see something they weren't meant to." Out in deep space, a fleet of 30 alien ships drifted near Neptune's orbit. They were the advanced scouts of the Galactic Empire sent to observe Earth's reaction. When Earth didn't respond to earlier probes, they became bold. They sent more, stronger, faster. Now they floated near the edge of the system, broadcasting messages between themselves. Still no sign of movement? Nothing. Earth's military is either broken or too primitive to detect us. They're probably still fighting among themselves. The fleet commander, a sharp-skinned Varkin, named Ziltor, didn't laugh. He watched the blue planet from afar. "Set sensors to high alert," he ordered. "Something about this feels wrong." "Why? They've done nothing." "Exactly," he said quietly. "Inside the Earth's moon, buried beneath thick layers of rock and metal, a system came online. Lights blinked across a massive underground structure. It wasn't a base. It was a cradle. And inside it rested the Terran Eclipse. No name painted on its hull. No national flag. Only dark armor that didn't reflect light. No sound escaped. No heat signature leaked. The ship was invisible to scanners, invisible to light, invisible to sound. But not for long. A voice echoed through the command center. "Eclipse core reactors fully charged." In another room, Commander Hawley stood before a secure terminal. He placed his palm on the surface. A sharp light scanned his iris. Authorization granted. Eclipse release sequence. Phase 1. Hawley said nothing. But deep in his heart, he knew this moment would change Earth forever. Meanwhile, back in the Galactic Council, news arrived of the first Terran silence breach. One of the scout ships had been destroyed instantly. No warning. No explosion. Just gone. Erased from their screens. Not even debris left behind. "This is unacceptable," shouted an alien general. "Did they fire a weapon?" "No," said the technician. "There's no sign of energy output. No weapon traces. It's as if space itself swallowed it." Panic began to creep in. "They shouldn't be able to do this," the high speaker growled. "Then what did we miss?" Another council member asked, but no one had an answer. "Not yet." Back on Earth, Lieutenant Mara stared at her monitor. One word flashed in red across her screen: "Eclipse rising." She leaned back, eyes wide. "It's real," she whispered. The stories were true. She looked out the viewing port. The stars beyond shimmered. But something was changing. A shape, so large and dark it blended into the void, was now beginning to move. It wasn't launching. It was waking up. And for the first time in her life, Mara felt something cold crawl down her spine. Not fear for Earth, but fear for whoever dared to challenge it. In orbit around Jupiter, the lead scout ship of the alien fleet hovered silently. Inside the command deck, Commander Ziltor paced slowly. His crew stared nervously at their screens. Just hours ago, one of their ships had vanished without a trace. No distress call, no debris, no warning. "This is impossible," the communications officer muttered. There was no attack, no signal, just disappearance. Commander Ziltor didn't answer. He simply turned toward the large front viewport. In the distance, a dark emptiness of space shimmered softly behind Earth's moon. He narrowed his glowing eyes. Something was wrong with that patch of space. Recalibrate our sensors, he ordered. Focus on that shadow behind Luna. But, sir, our scanners show nothing there. That's the problem, Ziltor said. Space isn't supposed to be that quiet. Back on Earth, inside the Terran Command Center, Commander Howell stood still, watching the giant holomap. Across the display, small red markers enemy ships hovered near the outer system. One by one, new signals popped up as the aliens moved. Deeper. Lieutenant Mara stepped forward. The scouts are getting bold. They're approaching Mars orbit. They want to force a response, Hale said. They think we're still holding back. That Earth is weak. He turned toward a secure console and pressed a button. A calm robotic voice echoed, Eclipse Protocol Stage 2. Cloak break ready. Far. Out in the cold dark of space, hidden in the shadow of Saturn's rings, the eclipse began to shift. Metal panels retracted with a hiss. Sections of its hull folded outward like the wings of a silent predator. Onboard systems awakened, thousands of drone bays opened. Energy signatures spiked for only a fraction of a second, then vanished again. The ship was ready. But it still waited. Because Earth's message had not yet been delivered. In the Galactic Council chamber, news of the missing ship spread quickly. The mood had changed. The laughter was gone. What do you mean, it's missing? Barked the high speaker. Send another squad to retrieve the wreckage. There is no wreckage, the aide replied nervously. There was no explosion, no energy spike. 1 second it existed. The next it didn't. One of the alien generals slammed his fist on the table. We underestimated them. Impossible, another argued. Earth barely meets Galactic. Standards. Their weapons are primitive. A new voice entered the room. Cold, confident. It came from the back. Primitive does not mean helpless. The council turned. A human stood in the corner. No one saw him arrive. No one remembered inviting him. He held a small black cube in his hand. This, the human said, is a message. He placed the cube on the table and turned to leave. The cube projected a 3D hologram into the air. It showed one thing, a massive shadow moving behind Earth's moon. Its shape was impossible to understand, too large, too complex, too silent. The projection zoomed in. Rows of plasma cannons. Energy shields thicker than any dreadnought. Drone ports the size of battle cruisers. At the bottom of the projection, 2 words blinked. Project Eclipse. On the edge of Earth's solar system, the alien scout ships panicked. We're picking up distortions. Something is moving behind Luna. It's enormous, larger than anything we've seen before. Commander Ziltor tried to keep his crew calm, but the fear in their voices was spreading like wildfire. Then it happened. One by one, their communications were jammed. Not hacked, not silenced, not like someone placing a hand over their mouths in the middle of a scream. Then, the stars behind Earth's moon began to shift, not because of space. But because something bigger than the moon had just moved. Inside the Terran Command Center, Commander Hale gave the final order. Activate Eclipse. Let them see what we've hidden. Lieutenant Mara held her breath. The stars blinked. And Earth's silence finally ended. Asterisk for centuries. The galaxy had measured strength by noise, by weapons fired, ships shown, threats made in bright war speeches. But now, in total, silence. The most powerful weapon Earth ever created had awakened. The eclipse rose. It didn't roar. It didn't flash. It didn't declare itself. Instead, it drifted forward from behind the moon like a phantom made of black steel. Slowly, calmly. But to the alien scouts, it was like watching a mountain break free from orbit and come alive. Inside the lead alien ship, Commander Ziltor could only stare. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Stars above. What is that?" No one answered. The Eclipse's hull shimmered with advanced stealth armor. It bent light, absorbed radiation, and hid every trace of movement until Earth let it be seen. Now, it revealed its shape to the invaders. On purpose. It was 3 times the size of the Empire's largest dreadnought. Dozens of black towers lined its spine, glowing faintly. The front carried a supermassive hangar bay, large enough to launch a fleet within seconds. No markings. Number. Name. Just one thing glowed on its surface. A burning Terran symbol, the Earth, surrounded by 12 silent stars. A silent warning. Inside the alien fleet, panic erupted. They've built a dreadship. We never saw it coming. This isn't possible. Earth doesn't have the resources. Retreat, now. But their engines failed to respond. Screens flickered. Weapons went dark. All signals jammed. Eclipse had unleashed its first weapon. Not a missile, not a beam, but control. A complete blackout field expanded from the ship, jamming everything the aliens had. Back in the Terran command center, Mara watched the feed, speechless. We didn't just build a ship, she whispered. We built a ghost. Commander Hall stood beside her, arms behind his back. It was never meant for conquest, he said, only to remind them. Earth was quiet by choice. Will we fire first? She asked. Holly shook his head. We won't fire at all. Not yet. But the galaxy wasn't used to silence. It feared it. In the Galactic Council, chaos broke out. The humans have a supercarrier. They violated every treaty. They've been hiding this for decades. How? The High Speaker slammed his fist on the table. I want their blue. Planet turned to dust. But a quieter voice from the back, a siren diplomat, finally spoke. No, she said. We mocked them. And they listened in silence. That ship, it's not an act of war. It's a message. What message? She looked up, her golden eyes filled with dread. That Earth doesn't need to shout. Because when they do speak, someone dies. Outside Earth's orbit, alien ships scrambled. But the Eclipse didn't chase. It simply hovered, blocking. The stars. Watching. Then, without warning, its rear hangars opened. From inside, rows of glowing drones emerged. Thousands of them, not small, each one the size of a gunship. They didn't aim weapons. They didn't speak. They just formed a wall, a living shield between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. It was the message. This far. No further. Commander Ziltor sat frozen in his command chair. They could have destroyed us, he whispered. Why didn't they? His second officer, pale and sweating, answered, because they want us to carry the warning. Ziltor looked at the dark screen. A warning of what? The second officer looked back at the shadow still rising above the moon. That Earth is awake now. The alien fleet did not move, not forward, not backward. They just floated in stillness like prey that had suddenly realized the predator was already beside them. And then Earth moved. The Eclipse began its first operation. It didn't fire a warning shot. It didn't send a broadcast. It didn't blink. Instead, small hatches along the sides of the massive supercarrier opened with soft pulses. From within those hatches, long, thin drones launched, silent and silver, like knives in the dark. They didn't shoot. They scanned every alien ship, every weapon system, every frequency. And then they rewrote them. Inside the alien command ship, red lights flashed. Sir, we're losing targeting control. Our weapons aren't blocking. Navigation's frozen. Commander Ziltor gripped the sides of his chair. What's happening? One of his engineers screamed. They're rewriting our systems. It's not a virus. It's like our ships belong to them now. In less than 12 seconds, 27 alien ships were completely disabled. No fire. No war. Just silence. And surrender. Back on Earth, Inside the Terran Command Center, Mara watched the screen in disbelief. Did we just shut them down? Commander Hale nodded. This was Phase 3. Control, not destruction. Not yet. Why not strike now? She asked. Hale turned to her with calm, cold eyes. Because letting them live will teach the galaxy something death never could. In deep space, the Eclipse's main cannons finally shifted. Not toward the fleet, but into the void. It fired a beam of pure energy, not aimed to kill, but to display. A massive ray of blue fire shot across the stars, slicing through an uninhabited asteroid field and cutting a planet-sized rock in half. The asteroid split, slowly drifting apart like the gates of a ruined fortress. The message was clear. This is restraint. On board the Council broadcast ship floating in deep space, a dozen species watched the footage live. Some covered their mouths. Some stood in silence. One of the oldest members, an Aver historian who had lived over 400 years, whispered, the Terrans were never weak. They were just waiting. The Council finally realized Earth didn't show its strength through noise, but it showed it through choice. Commander Zil-Tor stood slowly in the middle of his bridge. All ships, he said, power down your weapons. His officers looked at him in shock. But, Commander, they let us live, he said. We won't challenge that gift. He turned toward the dark sky, where the eclipse still hovered, still watching. We leave now. We deliver their message. The eclipse did not chase them. It didn't fire again. It simply turned slowly and returned to its place behind the moon, where light could not touch it. It vanished once more into the shadows. In the Terran Command Center, Mara finally spoke. So, that's it? No, Hale replied. That was just the first lesson. She stared at him. There's more? He gave her a faint smile. Of course. You can't teach an empire with one whisper. Sometimes you need to remind them who owns the silence. The alien fleet was running, not retreating in formation, not falling back with honor. They were running, scattering through space like frightened birds, chased by a silent hawk. But space offered no shelter. Above the moon's dark edge, the eclipse hovered motionless. Watching. It didn't chase. It didn't roar. It simply existed. And in that existence, the galaxy changed. The enemy fleet had come to humiliate Earth. Instead, they were now being escorted out of the system by Earth's automated hunter drones. No weapons were fired. No words were spoken. The message was simple. You may leave, but you'll never forget what you saw. Inside the alien command ship, Commander Zil-Tor held his head in his hands. This isn't just a weapon, he whispered. It's a warning wrapped in steel. His crew said nothing. No one dared speak above a whisper now. Then came the final blow. On every screen across the alien fleet, a human face appeared. Not a soldier, not a general, but a woman, gray-haired, calm-eyed, sitting in a quiet room. She looked into the camera, and she spoke softly. You sent warships to mock our world. You tested our silence. You thought Earth was empty, forgotten. But the silence was not weakness. It was mercy. Her voice didn't rise. But across the stars, every heart dropped. Leave now, and tell your leaders what you saw. Tell them Earth still remembers how to build in silence. Tell them this was Earth's polite response. The screen went black. Aboard the Galactic Council's homeworld, the message reached in full resolution. The members watched in frozen silence. The high speaker, once so loud and proud, sat completely still. His hands trembled. They didn't even fire on us, he muttered. They didn't need to. One of the younger members turned and asked, What do we do now? No one answered. Because no one knew any more. In the quiet fields of Earth, people still went about their Lives. Children laughed in parks. Families shared dinners. No alarms. No panic. Because most of humanity never knew what had happened. And that was the greatest display of power of all. While the galaxy screamed in fear, Earth simply continued, unbothered, unshaken, because it had planned for this day, and Earth's. Defenders, those in shadow, had delivered the perfect lesson. In a distant corner of space. The final ship from the alien fleet limped home, burned, scrambled, beaten without a single shot fired. Inside, Commander Ziltor opened a private log. He stared at the screen before typing slowly. We came to test the Terrans. We mocked them. We assumed they were weak. But Earth has teeth we cannot count. And they do not. Bite to wound. They bite to erase. He ended the log with 3 final words. Never mock Earth. 1 week later, the Galactic Council chamber sat in complete silence. No laughter. No speeches. No insults thrown toward Earth. Instead, the air was thick with fear and respect. A massive projection hovered over the center table. It showed the outline of Earth's eclipse supercarrier, still cloaked in blackness, orbiting silently behind the moon. The footage played on loop. No audio, no edits. Just the image of the single Terran ship watching as 30 alien warships ran in fear. Council had received the message. But now came the harder part, deciding what to do next. Some argued Earth must be punished. Others said war was suicide. But deep down, all of them knew the rules had changed, and Earth had not asked for permission. Far away, in Earth's hidden base beneath the southern ice, Commander Hale stood in front of a glowing console. Across from him, Mara stared at the live feed of galactic transmissions. Hundreds of alien worlds were talking about Earth now. Do we respond? She asked. No, Hale replied. Let them talk. But some want peace. Others want revenge. Hale turned to her with calm eyes. They mocked us when we were silent. Now we give them silence again. Across dozens of alien worlds, people watched the same short clip. A human woman calmly delivering a message after disabling an entire fleet without firing a single fatal shot. It went viral across galactic networks. Even alien children repeated her line in playgrounds. This was Earth's polite response. The galaxy began to shift. Old empires held secret meetings. Trade routes were rerouted. Warships returned to orbit their homeworlds, not to invade Earth, but to defend against Earth. No one knew how many Eclipse-class ships Earth had built. The truth? Not even most humans knew. One brave reporter from a neutral system tried to visit Earth. He was allowed through. He walked the cities, interviewed farmers, teachers, artists. No one talked about the eclipse. No one talked about war. But when he asked a quiet old woman near a coastal town about the ship, she only smiled and said, that wasn't our only shadow. It was just the one you needed to see. In deep space, far from Earth's view, another shadow stirred, another ship hidden behind a different moon. It powered up, slowly, quietly. Its name was not broadcast. Its presence was not confirmed. But in the silent logs of Terran High Command, one word glowed softly. Eclipse 2 online. Back in the council, the High Speaker finally stood. He looked around at the other species, some proud, some scared, all watching. We made a mistake, he admitted. We judged Earth by its noise, but Earth was never noisy. He pointed to the image of the eclipse. They were listening. And somewhere, in a silent war room beneath the oceans of Earth, Commander Howell turned off the lights and whispered the final line. Let the galaxy speak. Earth has already answered.